as we're kind of winding down, give some advice real quick. What you think some first-time filmmakers should pay attention to? Maybe they're starting their own documentaries out there.
I would say, like, for me, okay, and I'm not speaking about how to, like, get funding from Frontline or something like that. That's a whole different thing, and you probably need to get advice from somebody else. But I think, to me, if you want to make a very rich documentary, you need to be a good listener. Mm-hmm. I think any great filmic art form. I mean, a lot of our greatest actors, they're best on film when they're listening, right?
Yeah.
And you can see that, and you'll see, like, certain actors, like, that they're showing them when somebody else is talking because they hold the frame, because you can tell they're in that moment. And I think I would say listen and be open to following the story, And I think it's really no different than when you sit down to write. I think really good writing is when people get involved in a narrative, in their, obviously beginning in their head, sort of, but, like, listen to the characters. You can tell the difference between something that's written, like, in a formula way, right?
Yeah.
But usually the films I like, and the films that I think have resonance, you can tell that, that person was listening to his characters, and that's why the person says that really interesting line that moves the story ahead, but also is like, holy goodness. And then, I think when you're making a documentary, if you can build trust with the people that you're filming and follow them, and not try and imprint your own, your own outside view, because like I said, if you're just going to write the story and just try and plug them in, you might as well write a fiction piece. So
yeah.
But the other thing is, and this is, I really appreciated this the other night, Dan, is like, and Dan, you weren't the only one who said it, but it's like, a lot of documentaries, and you hear the stories. I mean, you just kind of have to persevere sometimes,
Yeah.
You just have to keep moving forward. And I think that's everything in life. So,
yeah.
And I've talked way too much. Dan, what do you have to say?
My advice to any documentarian would be the same as it would be to a screenwriter or an actor, which is that you have to do this because you love it. And I think often, and I know it was certainly true of myself when I was young and starting out, you're looking at, like, this is going to be, I'm going to make this, I'm going to get famous, I'm going to make it big, I'm going to do, and there's going to be ebbs and flows. And there's going to be times where you just have to keep going, and you see it with actors' careers. They peak and then they have valleys and then they peak again. And you have to be wanting to do this because it's what you do. And then the other things, the career and all of that, a career is what you look back on. That's when you're, at the end, you go, oh, that was my career. I think, as any kind of artist, you have to just be process oriented and not product oriented. You have to be willing to lean into that, and be willing to just embrace that. I'm going to write because that's what I do, is I write, and I get up every morning and I write, and somebody may pay me for it and somebody may not pay me for it. I love it when somebody pays me for it, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it regardless.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And that's pretty much the same thing with like making the documentary. I think, Bill really persevered, and there were a lot of things that worked against us, right? Like, how do we have money? We're all working jobs. He's in Los Angeles, Tony's in Virginia, the editing system is in Georgia. How do we communicate? How do we effectively Where are we going to get more money to do this? We're getting some pushback from people who don't want that, don't want us to talk about that in Athens. Or don't want to show that side of Athens. They don't want to show the happy part, and it's like, but that's not true and that's not honest. And I think just that willingness Bill he kept pushing forward with it. He kept trying to find the next thing to do and kept moving. And we've all had big changes in our lives over the course of 4 years. And to put it mildly, right, Bill? So pretty much any major life activity has happened to somebody who's a part of the film. And I'm not going to list them off, because then you'll try and figure out which one went through this, right? Right.
And but all the biggies were covered, all bases, so. That's another thing. And, it's anytime you work on something that takes, more time and all that kind of stuff, you got to assume things are going to happen. And, I think we thought this movie would probably be finished after about 2 years, right? I think we went into it kind of thinking it was probably going to be like 18 months to 2 years. It kind of just started after 2 years. Yeah, right. So... and the other thing is, like, as it went along, we were able to film some really interesting places and do some interesting. We put some people, and that's one thing that is similar to the first one. We put people in places where they shine, and the location says something about them and about the movie, and. Whether it was Kishibashi playing at the Morton, which was prominently featured in the first movie, and famously Michael Stipe did Popeye exercising at the Morton when they thought it was going to be torn down. And, a lot of that stuff happened as the film went on and grew, so anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop talking now.
No.